Finally, I want to emphasize we are all sitting at the collective economic table of this country. We must collectively come together to ask the core questions at this economic table. Some of these questions include, how can Canada prepare for the evolving $100 billion Indigenous economy? Today, this means inclusion and participation in the balance sheet of this country. This is economic reconciliation. The economic table has been set. This is Indigenomics. It's time to bring the leadership and shape the conversation at the economic table. The conversation needs to shape the achievement of economic reconciliation through renewed nation-to-nation, government-to-government relationship based on recognitions of rights, treaties, respect, cooperation, and economic partnership at the foundation for transforming economic change. It is time for progressive actions for Indigenous economic inclusion, to move over, to make space for, to include, to increase participation with the intent to shape Indigenous economic growth and empowerment. This new economic conversation must bravely ask the power questions of now. What does a supportive climate for Indigenous economic partnership look like? How can the resource development regulatory environment include Indigenous worldviews to better encompass higher environmental standards? Or what are the specific tools of a new Indigenous fiscal relationship? And how specifically can a national Indigenous procurement strategy nurture Indigenous economic growth now? And finally, in what ways can we address the investment capital equity gap in First Nations economic development processes? These questions can directly connect to the value chain of this country. These are the power questions from the heart of the narrative of this modern economic table. This is Indigenous economic design. My current work at the Indigenomics Institute is the establishment of an Indigenous Economic Freedom Index. To be able to understand the structure of Indigenous economic unfreedom, we need to be able to understand and frame the experience of limitations, gaps, and challenges, move that narrative into economic design. My work at the Institute is also currently driving the establishment of a global center for Indigenomics. When we look at examples of leadership out of the countries in South America, such as Bolivia, in establishing the rights of Mother Earth, we see foundationally a different relationship to resources and economy. When we draw on examples such as through the Maori people, with the right of the river and the establishment of a new economic narrative that draws on our responsibility to be able to relate to entities such as rivers as well as resources. I want to thank you for your patience in this transition to virtual presentations. Thank you kindly for the time to be able to spend with you today. While I would normally have PowerPoints and be presenting in a different manner, I appreciate your patience and I appreciate the time to be able to spend with you today. As you move forward with your themes around organizational effectiveness and moving economic reconciliation forward, I welcome your leadership in economic reconciliation and the growth of the emerging Indigenous economy. This is Indigenomics. The time is now. The $100 billion Indigenous economy is possible. We need to change our narratives from gap to design and to be able to establish the place of leadership of the metrics of Indigenous economic growth. Let's have the courage to do this together. Who wants to play Indigenomics? Thank you.